Thank you for the opportunity to present today on BPH energy, code BPH. There is a disclaimer, it's at the latter part of the display today, and I'll come through to that. I'm going to speak about Advent energy, clean hydrogen and cortical, but the main focus will be on Advent energy. And the significant development that's occurred in this marketplace is the Future Gas Strategy report has now been released. And that report says where gas will be proximal to where it is needed and where it will be a lower cost than relying on LNG imports is a key focus of the government strategy for new projects. And if additional forecast gas supply can be developed from existing 2P reserves, possible reserves, contingent and prospective resources. However, this will require both forecast and new projects to be developed in the required time frame. Now, when you look at where our project is in the offshore Sydney Basin, 26 kilometres out from Newcastle, that really sets up that we meet those criteria. And of course, when Minister King launched this strategy, she said reliable supply of gas is crucial to keeping energy prices down for households and businesses, and decreasing gas supply faster than demand will lead to shortages, supply disruptions, and high prices. And of course, that is exactly what is occurring at the current time. So the guiding principles that she put out in this strategy paper included that gas remains crucial to our economy, and that's right out to 2050, and regions to support the transition to net zero. And of course, as I said, gas has got to be brought to market at the right time and in the right place and at the lowest cost and with the other criteria. Now, the particular map was included in the presentation, the Future Gas Strategy, and it shows the gas basins of Australia, and in particular, of course, the Sydney Basin, where our project is. And of course, it shows that the Sydney Basin is an accepted producing gas basin. And now I'll move on to the next element. Again, this is the most recent release from GP Info, and it shows the petroleum permits both onshore and offshore Australia. And of course, what we're seeing here is that there are only 2 permit areas in New South Wales that are remaining. That is the Santos Narrabri project and the Pepperleven area offshore. And the other elements that I'm going to touch on in the presentation in a moment will take you through to the importance, the potential critical importance of Pepperleven. Now, Energy Quest is a respected independent energy commentator, and they've just released on the 10th of June a new update. And of course, what they have said in that is that Australia must develop a plan B to head off the looming gas shortfall. And that gas shortfall can emerge as early as next year, and a deep structural deficit could be present in 2028. Now, they've also said it is now clear that whatever we've been doing to address the looming 28 shortfall, we have now less than 4 years to find that answer, and that bolstering eastern seaboard supplies was the most logical response to a steep drop-off in offshore gas from Victoria's Bass Strait. And of course, what we've seen is that in Victoria, and this is what Energy Quest had just told us, in the 3 months to March 30th, the Gippsland Basin production decreased by 24.8%, and that really changes the dynamic of what now must occur. So even though LNG importing may occur, they've said importing gas will be significantly more expensive than current supplies, and higher prices would be problematic for Australian eastern seaboard for households and manufacturing. Now, what's happened over the last 2 years, and I'm just going to take you briefly through a few impacts. These are industry closures and industry impacts in the last 2 years. Incitec pivot, Queensland, 170 jobs. Qenos, Botany Bay and down in Victoria, 700 jobs. A key component of the Australian industrial complex. Molycop Steel, Newcastle, 250 workers, jobs lost. Opal, the only source of Australian manufactured white paper, 200 jobs, closed. Sorbonne, as a result of gas price 300% increases, closed, moved offshore. Indorama, as a result of Qenos closure in Botany, 110 jobs. Western Energy ceased its gas trading operations in 28. Santos has just had 200 job losses, Beach 100 job losses or thereabouts. And of course, we've got the other direct cost impacts, which is that manufacturing plants are now being asked to close their operations down during peak periods, and that's exactly what's occurring at the current time, and that's a real risk for the depth of winter and the heat of summer, and we're about to go into one of those time frames. I'm now just going to briefly touch on clean hydrogen and cortical. Clean hydrogen, of course, we're moving from proof of concept to production. And most importantly, as we said in our ASX release, we're now producing from the turquoise hydrogen system carbon composites, which is high quality carbon nanotubes. And those carbon nanotubes act as a toughening agent, and they have an immense conductivity greater than copper and thermal dissipation greater than diamonds. Now, in tests in a battery operations in India, they've had a 25% increase in the range in the battery that was tested in that operation. And so, in fact, we are seeing a significant cost and benefit gain as a result of the clean hydrogen technology. Cortical, anesthesia monitoring, a medtech device with approvals already existing in Europe, USA, Korea and Australia. We're now in the process of developing the Generation 2, which involves AI and the upgrade to software, hardware and firmware. Just to come back to a couple of points, which is the gas paper. When Madeleine King, as the Minister for Resources, launched this, the strategy said 800 petajoules a year is going to be the shortfall out into early 2030. And of course, that's equal to all of the gas used in manufacturing and in households in Queensland, Victoria, New South Wales, Northern Territory and South Australia. That's how urgent this is. And of course, gas-fired power is going to increase to 16 gigawatts out by 2050. LNG isn't necessarily going to be in ready supply or at the right cost when it's imported. And of course, you also have, as the gas strategy paper said, constraints in the gas supply network when you're bringing gas down from the northern areas, let alone the fact that you are going to be constrained by LNG export contracts where Japan, Korea, China rely on this gas for their domestic purposes. So we have the Basin, we're waiting for an approval. Minister Cusick, is the minister that is now responsible for the approval process. And we have a proven basin, which is in the gas phase, most importantly. And of course, the 300,000 jobs in New South Wales rely on gas supply. And there's 5 million homes across all of Australia that rely on gas as a key part of their heating and energy supply. Thank you for the time to talk to you today.